focused in our efforts towards transforming our system and being innovative with our service delivery and expanding on our Employment First Transition Toolkit that we're going to dig into a little bit this evening. So community employment, and really the path to community employment that is supported by our Employment First initiative, is around every youth and focusing on their abilities and skills and talents that can enrich the community and the people around us, ensuring that youth have that same opportunity for meaningful employment. And it supports, all of the supports need to be meaningful, individualized, and focus on the progression on the path to community employment. So when we talk about employment first, it's not employment for all. It doesn't mean everybody has to work. Employment first is really about opportunity. It's about ensuring that all people are able to make informed decisions about employment and to lead meaningful lives outside of employment, whether they're working or not. And so when I speak about informed choice, it means making decisions voluntarily after careful consideration of all of our options. And that's based on reliable and accessible information and real life experiences. So the goal is to help youth discover and explore employment as an option and that can benefit their whole life. Youth are supported to make choices based on accurate information and knowledge about community employment. And so again, employment first, the focus is about that choice and about that opportunity. And so the more that we can support youth to gather information about work, about employment, and to have experiences around what employment could mean for them, the more informed choices they are able to make then about their path to employment. Ohio is also a technology-first state, which was created through a 2018 executive order. And this is all around utilizing and helping people to use technology to improve their quality of life and how they experience more independence and personal freedom. And so all of us really rely heavily on technology, especially now. But there's lots of things that we use or rely on with our technology, as well as things that we use to make our lives easier. And so many Ohioans with disabilities encounter these obstacles with daily life and activities and at employment. And so these devices and technology, assistive technology, supportive technology services are available to help individuals experience their life more fully and as independently as possible. So under our Tech First initiative, we work with county boards of developmental disabilities, as well as a task force that's pulled together from various state agencies, and making sure that technology is considered and available for all people. And again, it's support to use technology to enhance and improve the quality of life, and not to necessarily replace. It's another piece of the puzzle to supporting youth throughout education, throughout their school, and also as they transition and into adulthood. Ohio's vision is all around people being empowered to decide and control their future. We stress on what people can do rather than any limitations. We place an emphasis on experiences and opportunities. We believe that all people can learn and contribute to their communities. Supports are available to support an individual to follow their own interests and learn about their skills. And that success really looks different for everybody. And so when we think about Ohio's Employment First and Technology First initiatives, we really want to ensure that we are focusing and leading with people's strengths, and we're supporting them to lead and create a life into adulthood and through their transition that they want to live as adults. So I'm going to share a little bit of just information and resources specific to the entity that I work for, which is, again, the Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities. Just want to provide an overview and just some recent updates. So our priorities at DODD are around person-centered planning, community membership, and community employment. And so in Ohio, we require person-centered planning to be used to develop all individual service plans. Community employment, again, through our executive order and through our priority service and preferred outcome for working age adults. And it is addressed in all service plans as well. And then community membership is really around how are we ensuring that individuals receiving services have opportunities and access to the benefits of community living, and that they are receiving services in the most integrated settings. So regardless of what an individual's desired outcome is, so whether employment or other means to spend their day or to contribute or to participate in a meaningful way in their communities, there's a variety of services and supports available to support someone in achieving his or her goals. Within our system and within other systems, people can use a combination of services and supports to help them. And we're really going to focus in on that concept tonight. So, I again want to share with you updates around DODD's services and supports that are available specific to employment and community membership and vocational training, but also wanted to make sure that we are looking at it holistically, that this combination of services and supports and services being explored from all levels of paid eligible specific services to use of technology, to things that are available into the community. We want to make sure that those are all explored in that person-centered planning process and all play a piece in contributing to supporting that individual towards that life. So here you can see the array of what we call our adult day and employment services. So this is not an all-inclusive list of all of the services that can be funded through the Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities, but this is our home and community-based Medicaid waiver services that fall under the realm of employment and day array. So I'm going to talk just really briefly about each of these services, and I will get more in depth into it a little bit later. So at the very top, we have our adult day support. This is a non-work service. It focuses on supporting individuals to gain skills to be more independent, self-advocacy, self-determination skills, and the focus of making connections and building relationships within the community. The vocational habilitation service is a pre-vocational service. And so that is a service that is intended to support individuals to gain some general work skills that will help them to be successful in community employment. We have our career planning service, which is a service that is provided one-on-one that is really focused on supporting individuals to develop, explore, and discover what employment can mean for them. It's also a service that can help people get jobs as well as find out how to be successful within that work or within that job based on accommodation needs and accessibility, as well as technology and support that can help. The group employment supports is a supported employment service that is provided in community employment settings in groups of individuals that receive support, and they are working on gaining skills specific to the type of job that they are working on within the group employment support. So it's not just general work skills, but it really is that work experience, a paid work experience that is supporting the skill development for a specific type of job. Going along the left, we have the individual employment support service. This is job coaching. This is support one-on-one to an individual that has a job in the community and may need short-term or long-term support to maintain that job. The last service in this array is our non-medical transportation service, and that is transportation to and from any of these services listed, as well as transportation to and from volunteer opportunities, to and from post-education or post-secondary education, back and forth to a community job. It can provide transportation, as well as to internships and apprenticeships. So that is that whole array of services. And again, the combination of these services, it's not looking to which service is the best service to select, but it's utilizing the toolbox, this whole array of services, and finding what services are needed at what time to help youth and adults to achieve the goals and to support employment and community membership. We have an Ohio revised code for employment first. And this rule really supports, again, that every individual of working age is supported during person-centered planning to identify their desired employment outcome, as well as where they currently are on their place on the path to community employment. So it's meeting people where they are, figuring out what it is that they desire for employment, what's the vision, and then where are we now? So that, that piece of it does tie back for those that were able to join the last session with Chris Filler on backwards planning. It is really that those are those two ends that we're really looking, where are we now and where are we going? And so that's what that is supporting. Services and supports are provided to help that individual move along that path to community employment. So again, back to what Chris explained last session, we're looking at closing that gap between where we're headed and where we are. Throughout this Ohio Revised Code, it also requires all of our employment and pre-vocational service providers to submit annual progress reports. They can also be submitted more often if teams determine or want additional data or information around progress. So this is really about monitoring how are things going and how are we supporting that movement towards employment in the community and towards that specific individual's outcome. We also require that employment service providers, as well as our non-work service providers or day support service providers, to enter data into our system around what services look like and what outcomes people are achieving around employment. So that outcome tracking system is helping us to kind of get a picture of where services are and the outcomes and results of those services, so that we can make decisions as a state and be strategic about how we plan to move forward and continue to support this path to employment first. So again, for more specific to our non-work services, here's the target areas that I briefly touched on. This is the intention of our adult day non-work services and our employment services as well. But it's really around informed decision-making, developing abilities, making connections, building relationships, increased self-esteem, and really just an enhanced quality of life that includes that full community participation. Over the past several years, adult day and employment services have evolved pretty rapidly in Ohio and across the nation. And so as a response to this, DODD created back in January of 2020, they created a work group called the Blueprint for Adult Day and Employment Services Work Group. And this work group met from January of 2020 to May of 2021, working together to develop recommendations to improve adult day support services, transportation services, and strengthen competitive and integrated community employment outcomes for people with developmental disabilities. So the work group has finalized those recommendations. The full report is available on our website, and it will also be included in your resource document. And so now we are working on implementation. So this is pulling together smaller groups and smaller teams of people that can begin putting these recommendations and work into action. So again, you can find the final blueprint proposal on our website along with meeting minutes and other information regarding the evolution of our Adult Day and Employment Services Array. This is just a brief overview of what the recommendation report entails. And so just wanted to share a little bit about this with you and just answer any questions that might be out there around what to expect with these, with the implementation of this work group's recommendations. So one of which is the creation of a new self-directed transportation service. So I spoke about the non-medical transportation service, and that is a service to get to and from those array of day and employment services, as well as to employment and post-secondary education, internships, volunteering. And then we also have transportation available through other services within to go out into the community within our Medicaid waivers. This new self-directed transportation service will allow individuals to have more control and choice over how they utilize their transportation dollars. And so again, all of the nitty-gritty details are not yet worked out, but the hope is that, and the recommendation is around expanding options. And so utilizing not just our DODD certified providers, but utilizing community transportation options such as Lyft and Uber, better access to being able to pay friends, families, neighbors, coworkers, mileage, being able to support obtaining your driver's license or maybe car modifications, really just opening up that service to allow individuals that need transportation to direct where that transportation comes from, along with, we're not replacing those other modes of transportation. The next is the implementation of the basic employment skills training service. I'll talk more about that when we get into the vocational training section, but this is a service that will eventually replace our current vocational habilitation service. And both the self-directed transportation and basic employment skills training are targeted to be in effect by July of 2022. So more information to come as that continues. Another big one for this is that we're working with system finance and rate experts, working on getting one through a competitive bid process to really support and look at our entire finance system as a whole. And so that's looking at how our services are budgeted, how they're paid for, and also how services are accessed through our Medicaid waivers. So that really is going to be the start of the work to then look at the rest of those services, the rest of that array of service, and to continue to evolve and expand them to support outcomes of community membership and community employment. Area specific to transition is to develop a statewide training specific to transition from school to adulthood. And this is around exactly what we're kind of talking about tonight, all of the adult day array services, including transportation, as well as the use of supportive tech. So again, there's lots more, really trying to find ways and evaluate ways that we can allow additional supports to be provided across all settings, such as nursing and other services that people may need that have traditionally been seen as a duplication or as not allowable during across all settings. Okay, and so this, I wanted to just show you where you can get some information around services, and also your local county board of developmental disabilities is the place to start. So if you are wondering about eligibility or wondering if you're eligible for services, the county board, your local county board, is the county that can help coordinate, determine your eligibility, assess your needs, and coordinate any services that you may need. So this, on our DODD website, there is a tab for supporting you and your family. That's where I highlighted where you can find your contact to your county board if you don't already have that. There's also the waivers and services resource tab that goes in depth on all of our waivers. And again, waivers are funding streams. They're Medicaid funded services. And so based on assessed need, and when you're eligible for county board or DODD services, what you are eligible for is for that coordination of service and resource. So that case management piece that can help link you to the resources in the community and link you to other funding streams, as well as our waivers and the services that I just talked about. On our website as well, we have a update, COVID updates page that is specific to any flexibilities or changes or updates that were explored and were given during our COVID pandemic to really expand access and availability of services. Many and some of those changes have become permanent and have or will be available long-term. So some of that is our day and employment services can be provided virtually. There's also a funding stream or a rate structure that can support smaller groups in community settings at a higher rate for service. And so those are a couple examples of other flexibilities, but there's lots of ways that the pandemic has helped us to look at our array of supports that are available and to include some flexibility to expand that access and availability. And again, much of which will continue well beyond the pandemic. Back in 2013, the Employment First Partnership was formed. This is a partnership between the Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities and our state vocational rehabilitation agency, Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities. And this is really designed to increase community employment outcomes for adults with developmental disabilities. So we have counselors within our vocational rehabilitation system through OOD, working collaboratively with our local county boards to identify and help individuals to be successful in community employment. We have a heavy emphasis and support through training around utilized person-centered planning and multi-system planning that was a little bit addressed last session as well. Help job seekers to understand how working in the community may impact their benefits. And so there is access to a certified work incentive planner through our partnership to support individuals and families to get knowledge around their benefits if they're interested in working or if they are working. And so that is available to individuals that have developmental disabilities through OOD. It also, throughout this partnership, we really focus on the full range of individualized vocational rehabilitation services available that are designed to meet individuals where they are on their unique path to community employment, and focuses on a multi-system effort. And again, that combination of support. So if an individual is receiving services through Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities, the hope is that they also have this range of services and this fluid support from a team with access to the whole array of services when they need them. We also have the opportunity for our duly certified vendors or providers of employment services across the state. They have additional training, as well as being able to support an individual, again, through the multiple funding streams and different services along that path to community employment. Any questions about updates, questions about DODD services, eligibility, who to contact? I'm not seeing anything in the chat, but I'm just pulling up and scrolling quickly. Whoa, I scrolled too quickly. Sorry,
Hi,
guys,
Britta. This is
bear with
Amy.
me.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
In one of your slides, you showed the bubbles of the different types of services people
Mhm.
could get.
Yep.
One of the bubbles struck out at me called individual employment services.
Mhm.
Um, is that just with an agency or can independent providers become certified in that as well so that, say, their client and them are already familiar with each other, but the client wants to volunteer somewhere in the community? Could their provider then become certified in that service?
So I'm going to try and answer your question without, I mean, it's kind of packed. So the first question is, yes, individual employment supports can be provided by an independent provider that becomes certified in that service. So there are, training requirements around employment and experience to become certified. So they would need to be certified for it. It is a one-on-one service and can be provided by agencies or by independent providers. Individual employment supports is a service provided when in competitive integrated employment. And so volunteering would not be supported through individual employment supports, but it could possibly be supported through another one of our services, such as Homemaker Personal Care, as a one-on-one service through an independent provider, or through an agency provider in a group through adult day support potentially.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Britta, there is one question. When would you recommend parents to connect with I think it's OOD. Would it be while they're still in high school?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, you can connect with OOD at the time that feels right for your youth. But there's a really good overview video that OOD has. They start supporting youth as early as age 14. I think they would recommend that you would pull them in or become eligible for services as soon as possible after 14, but no later than 2 years prior to exiting school. And so OOD and their transition services, I will share a little bit. I don't like to speak on behalf of OOD, but I will share a little bit about the services that they offer to transition youth. And there's tons of information on their website at ood.ohio.gov / students 14 plus. That website has videos, has information around all the ways that OOD can support transition youth. So yeah, there is no wrong time to pull OOD in besides for before age 14. You can make that referral and work with a counselor specific to your transition youth. And they can come and go. So they can open up a case. They may close the case. You may come back to them. You may not feel that it's helpful or appropriate or necessary to pull in OOD while your youth is still in school. That's okay. They'll still be there after school as well. There are additional services available specifically to youth that are in school. And so make sure that that is also explored before making that decision. But OOD can come into the picture at any time and can come in and out throughout your child's kind of path along that community employment goal. All right, I'm going to move us on. So I just wanted to, again, not rehash everything that Chris shared. Chris is awesome. I've worked with Chris Filler for many years from Ocali. She does a lot with our Employment First transition work. And I'm just gonna speak to that a little bit. But again, please, if you have some time, go check out Chris's recorded video from last session if you missed it. It's all about backwards planning. And so I'm going to hit a little bit on those things. But I'm going to focus in on employment and vocational training and community membership, and focus in on the resources that can help fill that gap. So if you don't know what I'm saying or talking about, go about filling the gap, about where a youth is and where they're going. Chris does a really good job of talking about that process of backwards planning in the last session. So the Ohio Employment First Task Force, this is a group that has, through that executive order, we're required to meet monthly, and it includes all of our state agencies. So the Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities, Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities, Ohio Department of Medicaid, Ohio Department of Transportation, Ohio Job and Family Services, Education, right, or the Office of Education. So all of our state partners coming together, and part of that work is our transition vision work plan. And so our transition vision work plan is all based on serving transition age youth across all of our systems and agencies and increasing community employment outcomes for youth with disabilities. So we meet on a monthly basis and are constantly coming back to this transition vision work plan that focuses on these 5 priorities for transition youth. So community employment is the expectation for all youth. Transition planning for youth requires multi-agency collaboration. Early conversation with families or with youth and families is critical. There's multiple pathways to community employment, right? Lots of ways to get there. And then person-centered planning is the key to developing effective services and supports for transition age youth. And so out of this transition vision work plan came the transition toolkit on the Ohio Employment First webpage. If you haven't seen that, please check that out. I pulled some specific resources throughout this evening, as well as highlighted on your resource document. So our Employment First transition framework is based on these non-negotiable foundational elements of being person-centered. The transition youth is in the center of the planning and really honing in on the specific and unique strengths and skills and abilities that youth has to offer. Outcome focus, which is focusing again with the end in mind, so that backwards planning, what are we helping to achieve? And agency neutral, meaning we all come together and work as a team to pull and understand and utilize resources and supports in a way that makes sense for that youth. One of the tools on our transition toolkit is evidence-based predictors. These are activities, services, supports, or things that happen during school years that have been associated with higher rates of success as youth enter adulthood. And so these areas, again, they're just starting points. It's not to say that every one of these things has to be in play in order to have the good life that a youth desires, but research provides clear evidence. So this is backed by research, backed by evidence, that the youth who have involvement with these evidence-based predictors are more likely to be productively engaged in working, learning, and living as adults. And so you can see that collaborative networks for student support, right, the multiple agencies that comes into play, individualized career development, we'll talk a little bit about, authentic community-based work experience, again, so that real life experience to build on and to learn and to grow into that work identity. Social and social emotional instruction and skills, academic, vocational, occupational education and preparation, supporting parental involvement and expectations, self-determination, and inclusive practices and programs. And so again, these are great tools. There's a whole tool about that goes into depth about each of these predictors, what's proven by research. There's lots of cool facts included, as well as resources and a little tool that you can assess kind of where an agency is or a county is or a school is with utilizing and implementing these predictors throughout their practices, as well as for an individual youth. And so just looking to see, you know, what has supported positive outcomes for other youth? What are the things that have happened or that are present that help lead to that life that they want to be living in their community as adults. Evidence-based practices are, again, research-based, but these are instructional methods and strategies that are proven to be effective to teach specific transition-related skills. So these are to be used in a variety of settings. It can be classrooms, in work sites, community environments, social settings, at home. And it's useful to teach a variety of skills. So those specific to employment, but also daily living, communication, academics, just independence in general. So a lot of these you can see, I'm sure, sound familiar or look familiar. You've heard of them, you've used them, but this tool really does help to give us a starting point for what can we try when we're supporting youth to gain specific skills that are working towards their transition plan. So this is specific to the requirements for education, right? So in Ohio, it's required that students with disabilities age 14 or younger, if appropriate, formally enter into the secondary transition planning process. And so the whole purpose of transition planning is to determine for an individual youth the services, the supports, the instruction, the experiences, and linkages to community and adult serving agencies that position or prepare him or her to achieve those desired adult outcomes. Goals for adult life are referred to as post-secondary because high school is considered secondary school. So therefore, any education or employment that the student engages in after high school is considered post-secondary. Within transition planning, the teams, starting with the student and family, develop measurable adult life goals. And so these are describing the student's adult life vision, right, or what their intentions are related to 3 critical areas. And those are competitive integrated employment, post-secondary education and training, as well as independent living. So again, you can see the themes already kind of throughout the different entities that I've already talked about, DODD, opportunities for Ohioans with disabilities, as well as through education, all focusing on supporting adult goals and a lot of it linking to independence and post-secondary education training and community employment. So with transition planning, right, we want to create a team to walk the path. We want to start with that youth and then figure out who else can help, who else do we need to be involved in the planning for their adult life, and when to involve different entities and different people. So family, friends, advocates, parent mentors, community members, educators are involved. If vocational rehabilitation or OOD is involved, service and support administrators through county boards, any employment professionals. So, right, those are just some very beginning ideas about who might be on that team, but each individual youth should take that kind of look at creating a team that is best for them. There is a tool that was created as a resource to provide basic information about the key agencies and employment for transition youth. And so this document contains a list and description of the types of information that those agencies often request so that families and youth can be prepared to give and provide information needed. It provides a brief overview of each of the agencies that includes any information or resources around eligibility requirements, intake procedures, and possible services to access through that agency. It has contact information and helpful websites for each of those state or federal agencies. There's also a page where you can add local contact information, so not the state contact information that's already there for you, but who do I contact in my county? And then also a space for families and teams to record information about a youth that the families often requested by agencies. So to kind of have that prepared in advance so that when new agencies are pulled onto the team, we're not starting from scratch or working in silo from that already existing transition team. So this slide really shows a graphic of person-centered transition planning teams. And again, this is very, very much related, and we'll give you a much more in-depth description by watching Chris talk about backwards planning from last session. But this is really that continuous process, no matter who's on the team. To the left, you can see that is the youth in the middle, and all of the different people that may be on their team at any given time, all working together through this continuous process of figuring out where are we now. So what experiences does the youth have? Where are their strengths, their skills, their preferences, their support needs? Where are we going? So again, that vision, what is their goal? So what's their employment goal or other goals about living as an adult? And what are the strategies or the things that are going to help us start working towards that? Then we want to talk about then how, like who is going to help us? So what resources, what services, what funding, what resources and technology, who in the community can help, right? This is where we're going to start planning and action planning for how we're going to help that youth close that gap or get closer to that vision. Then we want to always make sure that we have a clear picture of how will we know we've arrived. So we want to make sure that we're focused on that outcome. We're tracking progress, we're monitoring results. Are we getting closer? Are we achieving or learning and gathering the information that we need to continue to move this plan forward? So I just think this slide does a great job of kind of summing up the process of backwards planning that Chris reviewed. So again, discovering more about that youth to guide the path. So we're using formal and informal methods to discover those specific, unique skills, preferences, strengths, needs, and interests. We're deciding what types of activities will help the team discover any information that they might still need to plan and achieve successful adult outcomes, develop youth self-determination, self-advocacy, and independent skills, and think outside of the box, right? So this is really about the team coming together and utilizing all of the information they have and using the resources, services, and supports to gather more information and support skill development. Person-centered planning is all about discovering a person's strengths and interests, abilities, preferences, available resources, and support strategies that are going to support them towards that outcome. And so really, again, meeting people where they are, really looking at what each person and each transition youth has to offer, what their skills and their preferences and their interests are, and using that to guide our planning. And again, looking at all available resources and support strategies that can help that youth get there. There's not typically one thing that's going to be the resource or the support that is going to promote that successful outcome for the youth. It's that whole array and pulling together the pieces that make us all stronger and to help us achieve the things that we want. I wanted to just show you this visual of this tool through Charting the Life course. This is a daily life and employment guide. It's an interactive booklet that includes activities and resources to help transition age youth and adults to begin to think about jobs, careers, and continuing education. And so there is lots of information and lots of good questions and areas to think about around daily life and employment, different tools to help shape that vision, as well as there's a whole timeline and resource around what to do and when to do it to prepare youth for employment. Know that this is a resource that was developed by Missouri Family to Family. So those resources that are linked within this document, specifically in the timeline, the rest of it really is just about discovering and exploring what daily life and employment can look like. But those are specific to Missouri. So please refer to your resource guide that will be shared with you for Ohio specific resources when you get to that part. One of the ways that we can support a youth and support this team process is by utilizing a one-page profile. So this is a profile that captures all the important information about a person on a single sheet of paper and under three simple headings, which are what people appreciate about me or like and admire about me, what's important to me, and how to best support me. And so we believe that these are foundation to personalized supports, as well as can lead to positive change for people, whatever their age or circumstance. And so it can provide a at a glance way of knowing what really matters to somebody and can be taken with them as they move through services and come into contact with other people. So they're a simple tool, it's a visual tool, and it helps us to support people to build better relationships by truly understanding what matters to them and in their life. It provides that record that we can move with the person as they transition from service to service or from multiple services. It can be regularly updated as people change and their circumstances and aspirations develop and change. And we know that when staff have, or people supporting individuals have access to one-page profiles, that people feel that they're being supported and that they really get to know that person better and not just being the support person or just that job title that they may have. And so also when used at work, it can contribute to a person-centered teams where individual strengths are recognized and different ways of working are taken into account. So it's kind of that start of a conversation. So we want to start with is there a vision for the student's future? And so this, before we start talking about what resources or what tools or what agencies or services we need, we want to know what are we trying to achieve. That will help us to line up those supports and resources in a way that makes sense for the youth. So the Charting the Life course has a tool on focus on transition to adulthood, and that is really around moving from childhood to young adulthood and from school to adult life. And so there's many things to think about and prepare for this change. And transition is filled with change and growth and excitement and sometimes fear and confusion. So it's helpful to explore life experiences and have questions to ask during this transformative life stage. So people lead whole lives when we have specific, connected, and integrated life domains. And so that life domains in Charting the Life course are the different aspects and experiences of life that we all consider as we age and grow. So individuals and families plan for the present and future life outcomes that take into account all the life domains and have opportunities for life experiences that build self-determination, social capital, economic sufficiency, and community inclusion. So the domains help us to think about the current realities in our life while also thinking about what life experiences we want to have, which leads to the life that we want. So I'm not going to go through each of those life domains, but daily life and employment is one of them. And so that guide really dives into that about what a person does as part of everyday life, school, employment, volunteering, communication, routines, life skills. They also focus on community living, healthy living, safety and security, social and spirituality. So again, we're going to hit on that one a lot too, building friendships and relationships, leisure activities, personal networks and faith communities, advocacy and engagement, again, building those valued roles, making choices, setting goals, assuming responsibility, and driving really how they live their life. So that is a tool to help with the vision. This is also a tool that is to help get to that vision. And this one is the family perspective. So this is called the trajectory, the life trajectory. So it helps us to identify what is this vision for a good life. Sometimes that starts with what we don't want. And then there's these questions to the left and this trajectory for what are the past and future experiences that are going to help me to move forward. And what are the things that I want to avoid that are going to potentially bring me toward that vision of what I don't want. All right, so the backwards planning helps us to organize and prioritize how a youth can begin to work on achieving meaningful outcomes for adult life and who can help support him and her. So we're going to dig into the resources and supports that I have for you in your resource list around community employment, vocational training, and community membership. And again, those three areas that are hit on through transition planning, starting at least at age 14 or earlier. So we are using this coordination of supports from various resources, supports, and systems, and that opens up endless possibilities for what supports can look like and how we can lead to an inclusive, quality community life and supports for individuals and families that are used in combination of one another. So all of us access a variety of supports to achieve our envisioned good life. So historically, planning for a person's and or family supports focus mainly on our government funded or eligibility specific services available, and often left out many of the other assets and resources that can be leveraged to meet that person's needs. The Integrated Support Star is a tool through charting a life course that can be used by anyone to guide their thinking about support. It can be used for mapping current services and supports, problem solving for a specific need, or planning for the next step. The STAR can help explore current needs, identify gaps, or plan for how to access supports for the future. The Integrated Support Star really helps us take us from services being a barrier to integrating, connecting, and leveraging supports for a good life. So as you can see, the Integrated Support Star encourages accessing 5 main areas of support. And those are personal strengths and assets. Those are the skills, the abilities, the life experiences or knowledge and strengths and assets that the individual brings to their life. And so that's usually our starting point, but also we can use this in a way that we're looking at the individual as a whole, or we can use it to address a specific problem or to really help identify how are we going to reach a goal. Like Britta wants a job would maybe be in the middle. And then we're going to start with what are all my personal strengths and assets around that goal. Technology. So again, the personal technology that everybody uses, right? I don't go many places without my smartphone. I can't even get to the simplest places without my navigation system, right? We all utilize our technology. It's also the assistive or adaptive technology and environmental technology that helps us to adapt surroundings. There's also relationships. These are the other people that love and care for the youth, any friends that spend time together or have things in common, and also acquaintances or relationships that we have built through frequent contact or through shared interests. Community-based supports are places such as businesses, parks, schools, faith-based communities, healthcare facilities. These are available to everyone. These are local services or public resources that are out there, as well as groups or membership organizations that are available in individual communities. And then the eligibility specific, which is need-based service based on age, geography, income level, or employment status. So these are services that you have to become eligible for. And they are government paid services that are based on a diagnosis or a disability, similar to special education or Medicaid. So all of the categories of these stars are connected and are intended to work together and complement each other. So eligibility specific supports are not intended to meet or meet the need in entirety or to solve or support an outcome in its entirety. It really is just one piece of the star or one piece of the puzzle. All right, I'm going to pause again for questions. I see there's questions about
Britta, the
Yeah.
toolkit. I put a link on there for the toolkit, but someone was asking if that was, where can they find the evidence-based teaching and support strategies such as video modeling, etc.?
Let me see if I can quickly, or if one of you guys could drop the PDF file of the resource list, because it's all clearly spelled out in there. So there's a direct link to the evidence-based practices in that handout. If one of you is able to connect it, or I can do that at the end as well.
Okay.
And that will be on the website along with the slides and the recording.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so we're going to talk about exploring resources for community employment and really focused in on what are we talking about when we're talking about the community employment. So one of the evidence-based predictors is individualized career development. And so I wanted to kind of spend some time to talk about what that is. So career development refers to a process used by an individual to form a work identity. This is an ongoing process and spans a whole lifetime, right? We're all continuing to form and expand our work identity. Career development begins with a person's earliest awareness of the ways in which people make a living and continues with focused career exploration to decide on a career path and next steps. The ongoing nature of career development includes changes in employment, career advancement, and/or changing the focus of the career path. Individualized career development means that the strategies, supports, and services are selected to align with how the youth learns and also provide access to careers that reflect the youth's preferences, interests, and skills. Youth are then able to make informed decisions about the choice of or type of occupation to pursue. So the Ohio Department of Education is a partner with other state agencies to promote the Career Connections framework that describes various stages of career development and typical age frames for each to occur. So you can check out Career Connections through the Ohio Department of Education, and that link's also in your resource guide. All youth develop a sense of themselves as a future adult along a continuum as they develop their career maturity. So this is influenced by youth needs as well as experiences with the world of work. And some require more instructions and guidance in developing their career maturity than others. Career discovery and exploration, just as a whole, not as a specific service. Career discovery is about finding out what youth is good at and what they like to do. It's learning about different kinds of jobs that are aligned with those things, identifying conditions for success or preferences or things that would lead to successful employment. So that could be locations, schedule, it could be specific job tasks to avoid or to do, lighting, right? All kinds of things that we're kind of discovering about what would be ideal conditions for a job. And it's an active way to find out what kind of career or job is a good fit. Career exploration is investigating and experiencing different types of employment. And that's through talking to and observing people doing various jobs, as well as trying things out. So once you think about the what, that you have that vision, we are discovering and exploring what employment could be. Then we start digging into the how. So again, people need support to lead, like all of us need lots of supports to lead good lives. And so we have to use that combination of different kinds of support to help plot that trajectory toward an inclusive, quality community of life. So I'm going to zoom in on each of these sections. That this is an example and a starter sample of an integrated STAR for community employment, identifying some resources that might be utilized or helpful when exploring community employment or achieving or looking to get a job or to maintain a job. And so again, this is a sample. This is not all inclusive. I highly urge you to utilize the integrated STAR in your planning to help identify kind of all of those things that are out there or that can be explored to support an outcome or to solve a problem or to plan for an area as youth transition. Uh-oh. That did not, sorry, technical difficulties. That did not zoom in as planned. Let's see if I can do it this way. Is you guys seeing that zoom, or is it just on my side?
Yeah, we could see.
Awesome. Okay, so personal strengths and assets. This is, again, what does the student have? So this is lots of different things that can help support community employment. So having summer jobs, having work or volunteer experience, credentials, specific job skills, having that vision, responsibilities at home, making choices, you know, all of these things that could be prevalent or could be helpful in this big picture. Moving down to technology, right? Can we use electronic reminders, alarm clocks, a smartphone, different apps, online resume builders, online classes or trainings, internet job searching or job exploration, ohiomeansjobs.com, the Job Seekers Guide on the Ohio Employment First website that has lots of modules around community employment, and Ohio Lending Libraries, which are available for people to try technology. It's a free service to try out some technology that might be helpful before purchasing it or having it purchased through a funding source. Over at relationships, again, lots of examples of different people that can be a part of the supports or a piece of the supports that people receive for community employment. So family, grandparents, siblings, coworkers, friends, parents, family, friends, all of the above, teachers. Community-based, these can be our employers in the community, volunteer organizations, self-employment opportunities. Local libraries have community-based resources for employment. And then there are different manuals and different resources that youth can use to help support their self-advocacy, as well as to learn about what employment could mean to them. And then finally, down to eligibility specific, which is a lot of what we, which I'm going to dive into more of the eligible specific opportunities for Ohioans with disabilities, the County Board of Developmental Disabilities, home and community-based waiver services, ticket to work through Social Security, comprehensive case management and employment program is available through the Ohio Jobs and Family Services. And the list just goes on and on. So when you, I'm not sure if you've received that resource document yet, but you can find lots more information and the links to get more information on some of those resources that I'm not going to dive into tonight. All right, so opportunities for Ohioans with disabilities. This is our state vocational rehabilitation agency. And so on this slide and within your resource document, there is a video as well as lots of resources and fact sheets around what transition services look like. Opportunities for Ohioans with disabilities has also a statewide partnership with the Ohio Department of Education called the Ohio Transition Support Partnership. And that's designed to help students beginning at age 14 to gain the skills they need to prepare for in-demand careers. And so this provides vocational rehabilitation counselors to students and helps provide those individualized transition services. So some of the services are listed here: career exploration, there's a summer youth work experience, there's job development or placement. So this could be including a summer job or a part-time job, non-permanent, a temporary job. They have their work incentives, which I spoke to earlier, on the job support. So again, that support once you get the job to learn the job, so job coaching, and pre-employment transition services, which I'm going to dig into just a little bit more. And so the vocational rehabilitation counselor is an active participant of the IEP team once they are involved, and they help with that early career preparation and coordination with the school and other agencies supporting that student toward employment. So the pre-employment transition services, often referred to as PREETs, they are introductory services that are intended to help students identify the career interests. So they're really not full-blown vocational services to go get a job, but they are exploratory in nature. They are available to students that have an open case or are referred and working with OOD, as well as students that may be potentially eligible. So PREET providers collaborate with schools to deliver the services and to get access to those services for students. So here's the 5 categories. There's job exploration counseling. This is discussing career options and learning about in-demand jobs. Work-based learning experiences to gain knowledge about the workplace. Workplace readiness training, improve social and independent living skills. Counseling on post-secondary opportunities. So that's explore training options available after graduation, and then instruction in self-advocacy to learn the skills needed for greater independence. So if you haven't heard of PREETs, definitely go to OOD's website to check that out. Ask your school to help connect you, or there is information on their website about how to get connected. Also, career planning. This is a home and community-based waiver service. So if a youth has waiver funding through their county board, they can access career planning services if needed. And so these are time-limited one-on-one services that support people to reach their goals. And it really is to help them to get a job, keep a job, or to be self-employed. So anyone can use the service that has the funding source of the waiver. and it really is like anybody who wants a community job and that can't get a similar service through school or OOD. So that's the advantage of having a full team come together with your service and support administrator from the county board, Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities, and your schools coming together to really plan out supports and leverage what's available when it's available and kind of line them up. And so this is when you want to access this service, it's through planning with the service and support administrator at the county board. There are lots of components to career planning. So career discovery is about, I talked about kind of what the career discovery is. It's really understanding a good job match and understanding your interests and skills and where that aligns in community employment and career exploration. Again, going to explore and see what it looks like and talk to people. Situational observation and assessment is a work experience, a paid work experience to try a job and get some experience and gather some information potentially. Employment and self-employment plan, this is to help identify what resources are out there and what and kind of do that backwards planning to help reach that employment goal. Self-employment or to develop a business. So that self-employment plan can also be focused on how to start a business or plan for a business. Then there's a service, a component of career planning around self-employment launch. So actually launching a business, supporting what it takes and the steps needed to get a business started for self-employment. Job development, which is help to get a job. Benefits education and analysis, again, understanding how our benefits and work together and what incentives are out there. And then worksite accessibility, which is identifying the changes needed at the workplace or on the job itself to help that person get or keep a job. This flowchart shows that path to community employment and the career discovery kind of process. I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but wanted it there for your reference. Another service, and I already kind of dug into it, so I'm not going to spend a lot more time on individual employment support, but again, it's that one-on-one service that supports that long-term goal or that long-term job. So it's that job coaching, training for assistive technology to use on the job, other workplace support services, including linking them to other resources within their job, support from coworkers, finding out what accommodations might be needed, those types of things to support the longevity and the success of the employment. Technology and work, these are two videos that really demonstrate how people have utilized technology to support them on the job. So wanted to have those there for you as well. Questions on community employment and those eligible specific resources that we talked about? All right, moving on. Vocational training. So this is, we're going to just dig into, again, the support star around vocational training. I'm not going to read through it this time and just because of time, but there's lots of different things that we want to look at for personal strengths and assets, different technologies that can be support. There's, I think, college and going to college websites are two that are specific to planning for college. Ohio Means Jobs has a specific planning for college section with lots of resources. Again, who else can we pull in, who can help, who can be a part of this mix? Community-based, so these are our colleges, our universities, our tech schools. This is accessing financial aid, student and career services within our colleges, industry recognized credentialing, apprenticeships, accessing our local library for work skills and work development, Ohio Means Jobs Student Center and online backpack. And then the eligibility specific, again, IEP transition services, OOD, they have a college to careers program. County Board of Developmental Disabilities can be a piece to support movement toward post-secondary education or vocational training. There's some Medicaid waiver services that can help with that. There are post-secondary programs in colleges and universities that are geared towards students with disabilities, Job Corps, and then disability services offices within our colleges are also eligible specific resources that can help to be a piece of supporting that vocational training goal. So Ohio colleges or college to careers is offered at 17 public colleges and universities in Ohio currently. And it is helping students with disabilities have the support that they need to complete their degree or get their credential to earn higher wages and meet the demands of tomorrow's labor market. So the counselors are located within the disability services offices at the college and assist students with disabilities with additional support on the top of what's already offered within the disability service office. So they can help with some career exploration and counseling, access to assistive technology, resume and interview preparation, internships, employment, assistance in navigating Ohio Means Jobs resources, as well as connection to an expansive employer partner network. Ohio Statewide Consortium is a group of inclusive college classes and programs that are higher education programs for students with disabilities. And so this is, this consortium page has the list of all of the universities that are currently have programs, as well as if you go to the page, you can actually click on each of the program names and it will give you all of the information about where it's at, what it costs, what it looks like, and contact information as well. So Ohio, again, we have within that array of services, a pre-vocational service currently called vocational habilitation. And again, this is a service that teaches a person general work skills and is considered temporary. So in Ohio, and part of the evolution that I spoke to, this service has historically been provided in workshops or in work centers, but really can happen anywhere in the community or in a variety of settings other than a person's home. Pre-vocational services are Medicaid services, but cannot be used for long-term job support. So instead, it's used to support somebody while they're learning those general work skills that will help them to get and keep that job in the community. Part of the blueprint recommendation was that Ohio is, and it was actually part of earlier work. So you may have heard of this earlier than the blueprint, but it is part of the implementation through the work group of the blueprint work group. And so the basic employment skills training will be a new pre-vocational service that will eventually replace vocational habilitation and will be available in, again, hopefully July of 22 is the goal. And so this service, it will have, well, the recommendation is to have a multiple tiered requirements. And so individuals that are receiving vocational habilitation services currently at the time of the change, who are under the age of 50, as well as anybody coming into the service will be in that new requirements for basic, oops, not sure what happened there, for basic employment skills training. And so this service, it's going to better meet the state and federal requirements regarding the time limits and the expectation behind pre-vocational services. So it's again available to anyone who's 18 and over who's exited school. There will be a 24-month statewide time limit to the service. That time limit will be a cumulative total, which means a person could move in and out of the service for short periods of time over a time frame of no longer than 24 months if they do not exceed a total of 24 months in that service. There is an option for yearly extensions to be available based on the individual's assessed needs. And so these yearly extensions, there is not a limit on how many yearly extensions can be provided, but there is, after 3 years of extensions, then it would go under review by DODD to ensure that we are meeting the intention of that service. And so more to come as that service gets developed and as we work to get that implemented, but wanted to share some information on changes coming to our pre-vocational service. We also have our group
Britta,
employment.
excuse me.
Yeah.
This is Amy. I'm sorry to interrupt. I know that we only have about 6 minutes left.
Yep.
And there are a couple of questions on the chat, but one of them was just asked that I get asked a lot. So I think it's worthy, if you don't mind, of addressing it, if you can.
Absolutely. Sure.
It's from Lucy. She says, my son is in 9th grade. I'm still confused about how the county board, OD, and high school interface. Who is the point person? Who would help identify assistive technology? Who could help explore addressing the sensory issue that might interfere with future employment? But again, in our opinion, mine and Britta's, that shouldn't be an interference with the right support. So who is the point person for someone like Lucy to help her and her team navigate that?
Yeah, I mean, Lucy, I would hope that it would be that whole team, right? I mean, I think the whole point of transition planning and the team approach is that you aren't out there trying to figure this all out on your own. You know, asking your transition coordinators at school or calling your county board. And I guess it would depend on what it is that's needed, because when you're an adult in adult services, you may have still funding from multiple different funding streams. And so you have all these things happening from different agencies. And so if you're the one coordinating it and then everybody's kind of doing their own things separately and not using that team approach, you may not be getting the best use out of your services and out of the supports that are available. And so I think that the answer is as clear as mud, is that it's that whole team approach, right? It's utilizing who you already speak to and who you already work with specific to your youth. Typically that is the school. Sometimes it is the county board. Sometimes it is OOD that is that main entity that you lean on. But the hope is that you use that integrated support star to identify all of those supports and pull them together in a cohesive way. And so I think that the point person isn't necessarily the family or the parents. The point person is the youth, but who supports the coordination of all these efforts is that collective team. So any one of those members should be able to support involving and pulling in other entities. That is part of the transition process and the main focus of what transition is all about.
Yes, and just to echo that, Lucy, if you have further questions about how to ask for that coordination, please contact me. It's Amy Clausen, and I can add to what Britta just said and give you a more personal approach, because I definitely agree with that. But sometimes parents get stuck, and I know that because you need to know how to get started with asking for that coordination.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yep, Amy's a
And
great resource for sure for that individualized approach.
and then there's another question about funding for college. Is it waiver funding? So for example, here locally, it's Kent State's program. Is there any funding help to fund the college like that?
Yeah, so on that Ohio's consortium website, there's a whole page of funding options for college and for programs. So there's federal funding that's like FAFSA. There's also Pell Grants and other types of grants specifically geared towards individuals with disabilities. There's a credentialing that the schools need to go through to be able to accept that grant funding, but many of them have and are able to accept that grant funding. Waiver funding does not fund college classes.
Fees, yes. Okay. And then I had the same question earlier about lending libraries. It's sort of a hidden secret out there. So where are the lending libraries? What's available to lend?
Okay, so there are lending libraries all across Ohio. There are lending libraries that only serve a specific area or region. There's also lending libraries that serve the whole state. So there are many that will, wherever you live, they will mail you different equipment and send you a box for you to send it back after you're done borrowing it. What's available also varies based on each entity. So in your resource packet, there is a link to the lending library. There's a whole map that really shows which lending libraries serve which areas, which serve statewide, as well as what's available and how to contact them.
And it's usually different types of equipment or communication devices.
Yeah,
or
adaptive
types of-
toys.
There
Yeah,
you go.
yeah, medical equipment, specialized medical equipment, assistive tech, all of it. Yep. Yeah, I think
Good.
it's an underutilized resource. So definitely check out that map and check out some of the resources or get in touch with some of the lending libraries.
Good, good. And so with that, we're sort of out of time.
Yeah.
And are there slides that you did not get to, Britta, that you
Ye-
can just address in a sentence or two and have
Yeah.
everybody look at the PowerPoint?
Yeah, so community membership, and again, this is kind of, again, beyond. It's everything that we do outside of work or when we're not working. And so there are services and that array of service, that adult day support service through DODD, as well as, again, that whole array of support. So in the materials that you'll get, there's an integrated star for community membership that kind of highlights some of those resources, as well as a slew of them included in the resource document that you will get. And it really is about how do we help build meaningful connections within work, outside of work, and find ways to connect and participate in a meaningful way. And so check that out. I'm just going through them quickly to show you what's there on the slides as well as in your resource document.
Good.
Also, my contact information is in there. So please reach out if you're having trouble getting that coordination of supports or have questions about any of the resources or information that I talked through tonight. Please feel free to reach out. I love to hear from families. Transition is a topic near and dear to my heart. So thank you all for being with me tonight, and go Browns.
Thank you, Britta. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. It was a lot of really, really good information. And again, as Britta said, reach out if you have follow-up questions. I don't forget to please complete our evaluation. Lori put it in the chat for us. And have a great rest of your evening, everyone. Goodbye now.